This week on the roundtable, we are
All right, welcome back. You're watching NewsX. My name is Vineet. Merely a day after Prime Minister Modi and US President Donald Trump announced the long-awaited trade deal between India and the United States, External Affairs Minister Dr. S Jaishankar held talks with the US Secretary of State Marco Rubio in Washington, D.C. The two leaders held wide-ranging decisions as they commended the deal agreed upon by Prime Minister Modi and Donald Trump. Featuring prominently in the discussion was bilateral cooperation on critical minerals exploration and mining, as the meeting came ahead of the critical minerals ministerial meeting that the US is hosting on the 4th of February. Other issues discussed was the India-US strategic partnership in trade, energy, nuclear, defense and technology. India and the US also agreed on early meetings of various mechanisms to advance shared interests. A big emphasis was on shared energy security goals and expansion of economic opportunities. The bilateral meeting was held amidst Mr. Jaishankar's three-day visit, official visit rather, to Washington, wherein he also held talks with US Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, signaling huge impetus for bilateral ties between the two nations. We'll talk about this and more with some people who understand this. Ambassador Bhaspati Mukherjee, former diplomat, with us on the program. Major General Dr. Rajan Kochar, senior defense expert, with us on the show. Dr. Jayajit Bhattacharya, president of the CDPR, joins us on the show as well. Mr. Rabindra Sachdev, international affairs expert, is also with us on the program. And last but not the least, Mr. Sumit Peer, senior political commentator, will also be joining us on the show very soon. Ambassador Mukherjee, ma'am, I'll begin with you. Well, it's good. It's all well so far that this deal is being worked upon, it's being finalized. We're also learning that this is just the initial phase, which is still being ironed out. But like I've said before, and I'll say it again, that with Donald Trump, anything can happen. Nothing can be guaranteed, because unless a deal is put on paper and signed by both the parties, it will be very difficult at this point in time to figure out what actually the nitty-gritties are, what India needs to compromise on, and what the Americans will do if India puts a heavy stance again.
I think, Vineet, thanks to the India-EU FTA, Trump will sign the deal, because we have to thank Mr. Trump that because of him, we changed our approach to FTAs. We've concluded FTAs with UK, with Australia, the EU. We've made it very clear that if he wants to bully us and harass us in this manner, we will look for new markets. And we have a huge domestic market. We're 1.4 billion people. So nobody is going to be sailing down the Indian Ocean because Donald Trump decides to be nasty to India. On the other hand, what you rightly said about energy security and defense deals, these are very important for Trump and his administration. And it is also important for Trump to show that India is on his side in a strategic partnership, because he must be really alarmed by the gradual softening, perceptible and external softening of ties between India and China on one hand, and the clear messaging coming from the Kremlin that while they have no issues with a warm India-US bilateral partnership, they are not going to let go on the Russian-India friendship and partnership. They made it very clear, the Kremlin, and we have been diplomatically silent on the whole issue of Russian oil. The silence in diplomacy means only one thing. It means ambiguity. It means we are not going to comment on this matter. Let me see what Mr. Trump takes. And finally, as far as the strategic partnership is concerned, it is actually of vital importance to Mr. Trump that he comes for the Quad Summit, because if he doesn't come for the Quad Summit in the next few months, doesn't make a trip to India, The groupings that he doesn't like, where India plays a prominent role, and that includes BRICS and the SCO, will become more important because he has already decimated the G20 by leaving South Africa out, the former chairman, refusing to invite South Africa for the G20 summit, which will be in the US, etc. In the process, he has decimated the global south, which plays a very important role in the G20. So his only hope is the Quad. And I'm sure, well, yesterday, and in a similar debate, Uday says, I speak like an astrologer. So I told Uday I'm not an astrologer, but I'll stick my neck out and say that I am sure that over the next 4 to 5 months, Trump will make a bilateral visit and we will have a Quad summit before the midterms. Before the midterms, because the Epstein files are causing waves and more waves. Every day there's a new person who's fallen because of the Epstein files. It's only a matter of time before it gets to Trump's inner circle, in which case he will be damaged. So I think that I agree with you that he's temperamental and transactional, but I also think he's a very smart guy.
Okay.
But on this one, he's not going to go back. No.
All right. Fair enough. General Kochhar, what do you think did it? What do you think cracked the deal? Is it the Epstein files? Is it the EU FTA? Is it India's, record trade with China in 2025? Is it a distraction, like Ambassador Mukherjee also said, from the Epstein files? I'm sure Donald Trump is going to be looking for bigger distractions to drive away people who are unhappy with him at home.
Thank you, Vineet. It's a very interesting question you have actually posed to me. I don't think it has got Epstein files has got a big role to play because 100% of those files are out now, and as per the Department of Justice, they have made it clear that everything is out in the open now, and nothing is left as far as the Epstein file is concerned. And wherever there was a mention of Trump, I think that has been managed by Trump, that it has not really actually come out. What worked so fast was there are a couple of factors. The first is that Trump, if you remember, we're going to have the midterm elections soon. The primaries are there. And Trump is facing a lot of flack with regard to the way he has handled the anti-immigration by using his federal forces in Minnesota, Portland, and all these countries, states, California, and all. And I think that agitation is going on. It's actually spreading in other states also. A second important aspect is Trump is stuck up on Iran because now he realizes that launching an attack on Iran can be counterproductive. So he is now looking for an opportunity to move out without losing face. And the most important aspect is he is realizing that India is slipping away from the US fold, because the kind of tactics which he has used with India, coercion, has not really worked. To that extent, he wanted them to work. And Europe is actually going out. And most importantly, if you see the Gaza peace process or the Gaza peace board, none of the G7 countries have joined, and nor have other members of the Security Council. So overall, if we see these things from a geopolitical perspective, I think mending fences with India was becoming very, very important. And that's how this deal has actually come about, because India is also doing an FTA with Canada. It has already done it with New Zealand and Great Britain. So he is finding that if he does not sort out things with India, things will become pretty bad for the Americans. And that is why this 18% deal. But he's not going to is renege from this deal. He's not going to back out now because I think it's a matter of days when this deal will get fructified. But what is important here is that the Indian markets have reacted, favorably to this deal. Last 2 days, I've been watching the stock market has been rising. A second important aspect is those manufacturers who were of gem and jewelry, agriculture, pharmaceuticals, electronics, they have actually heaved a sigh of relief, and I think that's a good thing because in the budget also certain exemptions on custom duty was done by the government to make their life a bit easier. And my last important point here is that we all would be awaiting the finer prints of this trade deal because there is so much on WhatsApp. You can't actually believe what all is being spread on WhatsApp relating to the dairy and the agricultural, product, etc. So I think that would be a very vital point. Commerce Minister has made a statement that agriculture and dairy is not part of the deal. So let us see how it moves on. And most importantly, I think a message to Pakistan as well as to China that India is still enjoying a good relationship with the United States. And I would like to conclude my argument on the defense part of it because I was slightly actually concerned on the defense cooperation, the jet engines and the other things which we have to get from the United States, the technology sharing and the various defense agreements India has made with the United States were getting impacted. Concasa, Limua, ISET and all other deals which we have made with them. So I am glad that from that point of view, we still have a partner in the United States who's going to support us. And I believe External Affairs Minister Jaishankar has discussed this thing in joint ventures are, I think, what we are looking for with the US actually coming to India. Because we don't want that
right.
kind of
You're
a
absolutely
dependency
right, General Kochi. You're absolutely right. I also have to, get in Dr. Bhattacharya into this conversation. He's been with us since this tug of war, we can call it that, Dr. Bhattacharya, or this standoff began between India and the United States. Who's going to blink first? We're still not sure who's going to blink first, but General Kochhar has a very valid point that apart from being partners in several areas, India is a big market for the Americans as well when it comes to defense procurement. They do not want to lose that, especially to France, considering the love that Donald Trump has for Macron.
So is that question to me?
Yes, yes, it is. It is for you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So look, it doesn't really matter who blinked first because India and US are natural allies. And it's important because, if you look at the size of the India-US trade economy, to put a perspective, it's more than half the total GDP of Pakistan, just the trade between US and India. So it's critical for India, let's not undermine that, and it's critical for the US. So it's extremely important that we got this back on track. And as I said, we are natural allies, and from the, as the General also mentioned, there are multiple defense agreements that we have also signed. So while this discussion on the trade deal was going on last year, we still went ahead and signed another defense deal in October. I'll not go to the details of it, but the relationship between the US administration and the Indian administration on the ground had not really become very bitter. It was, functional, it was important, and what has really happened is a nudge because of various geoeconomic actions that was happening has accelerated the process of the India-US deal, and hence we could close it. But the track record of the current US administration has been they might just walk out of the deal. It may not be in the best of their interest, but the track record is that anything signed on paper is also not worth the paper itself. But at least it's a movement forward. At least we get some semblance of rule-based engagements. And again, as the General mentioned, at least the markets are cheering.
You have a good point, Dr. Bhattacharya. If they can think of walking out of NATO, if they can think of walking out of WHO, then what is this FTA between India and the United States?
Absolutely. And therefore, we need to look at it the way it is. It is good for now. It has impacted the rupee. Rupee has become stronger. And also from an export perspective, India was able to surmount the loss of the US market when that happened last year. And we were still growing. The Indian exports were still growing. Now that the India-US trade deal has come back and US is a huge export market for India, we can only go really accelerated up from here onwards. So it's a very good outcome for India specifically. For US also, given the dimensions of geopolitics, of strategy, of Quad, of supply chain resilience.
Right. Let me also bring in Mr. Sachdev into this conversation. We have a paucity of time. Mr. Sachdev, all right, all this is transactional. All this is really good that there is going to be trade. But what about the people-to-people connect that has been hurt by Donald Trump? What's going to happen to that?
Oh, the people-to-people connect, one big bucket will remain damaged. I mean, in terms of students going to the US,
Yep.
if we talk about people-to-people, I mean, all the policies, they're not working out. The tech professionals going to the US, that is also, in jeopardy. H1 renewals, if you come back to India, date is 1 year away. So multiple of those. But I'll just come back to the overall, and of course, everything has been covered. But my sense is, and I'm purely speculative, my sense is the trigger for this deal was, yes, India agreeing to reduce the purchase of Russian oil. That is my sense. Because you see the trade deal, the 25% of which it has come to 18 now, was topped by the 25 for the Russian oil, right? So, and there were several statements by Trump, not only statements, market data also, shows that we have reduced, okay, it may be, it's just a monthly shift kind of a thing. But we got to remember that Rosneft and Lukoil have been sanctioned, right? We are buying through maybe intermediaries or some such routes. So the cost is going up. There's friction in the trade happening already that we are seeing. Discounts are not as much. The decision for India was, I think, buying the Russian oil, we were saving, or we have saved, it said around $26 billion in the last 3 years by buying cheaper Russian oil. Or let's say the last 1 year, the number is something like $8 to $10 billion we saved. So that's the saving we're getting through Russian oil. Right? Here, our loss, if the 50% continue for 1 full year, okay, sure, we may have boosted some of our exports, but if this 50% stays for 1 full year, the loss of our exports noted and estimated by various is around 50% tariff means $50 billion export loss, if not 40, if not 40, $35 billion lost. Number of jobs lost. I think it came down to us for a cold economic sense. Okay, keep aside the geopolitical, geostrategic with Russia. So the trigger was this, and coupled with the fact that Trump and the remote viceroy Marco Rubio, they want to sell the Venezuelan oil, which is right now they had a storage of it, right? Venezuela had produced around 50 million odd barrels during the blockade, which they were not able to sell due to the blockade, which now Americans are selling via 2 private trading firms, right? They've already sold one tranche, of which around $500 million has come in. Okay, of that $500 million, $200 million of hard, cold cash dollars have been given to the Venezuelan government.
The corporate America said that Venezuela is uninvestable.
I'm coming to that, sir. If you'll give me 30 seconds.
Quickly, please.
Okay, yeah, sure. So it's not the long term. They're looking at right now India buying some Venezuelan oil from those storage, these things, which allows them to pump in more hard cash into Venezuela. That is
Why
what
should
I think
we?
is
Why
the
should we
trigger.
be buying Venezuelan oil? Why should we be compelled to buy oil that we don't need? All right, let me also rope in Sumit Peer into this conversation. Sumit, what do you make of this trade deal? And do you think buying Venezuelan oil and distancing ourselves from an ally such as Russia by not buying oil that suits us is worth the FTA?
Vineet, thank you very much for having me on your show, and thanks for the question. It's a wonderful question. Look, the potential of the FTA is $500 billion and going higher by the day. European FTA opened $10 trillion of market for us a year. And this is the kind of a similar market which it will open once the formal FTA is signed, which is work in progress. Now, right now, if you talk of the trade deal, you have saved a lot of money. But Vineet, the whole thing is that Trump is asking you to buy more of Venezuelan oil. But is Venezuela pumping so much of oil? It is not. Eventually, what is going to happen is he's just asking for a commitment. In the long run, you will buy more of Venezuelan oil for me. And before the sanctions were put on Venezuela, we were buying around 50% of the Venezuelan oil, and we have all the refining and all the capacity to sort it out. Now, what is going to happen? Look, Friday there's going to be a meeting in UAE between the trilateral between Americans, Ukrainians, and the Russians. Most probably something will come out in this and in near future, very near future now. Now what happens the moment that has come in, all the sanctions on the Russia are over. So if the sanctions on Russia are over, there is no embargo, there is no Lukoil, there is no Rosanet, then they can't stop you in buying from Russian oil. But where is the big deal? Because Trump knows ultimately Russian thing will be sorted out. So what he's asking you, when the things sort out, I can't put any embargoes on you, I can't put any tariffs on you because the war has stopped. That is where the whole drama is coming from. Now, do you have a commitment from me in the long run? You will buy a lot of Russian or a lot of Venezuelan oil. Whenever it is available, that is not you sacrifice Russian oil. So let me give you the statics we need. Last quarter, July, August, September, we bought 1.8 million barrels of oil per day, which is highest in a quarter. Then in December, we came to 1.4. Last October, November, December, 1.4. Then ended December with 1.2 million barrels. But if you look at the yearly average, we are doing 1.4 million barrels per year. Only in December we imported 1.2. That is where it stands because of Rosanet and Lukoil sanctions predominantly. What the then 15% fall in the Russian oil, 90% of that we bought from Americans and 10% we bought from UAE. The catch is very simple, sir. The number one supplier is Russia. The number two supplier is Iraq. The number three supplier is, if I'm not wrong, the number three supplier is UAE. Number fourth is Saudi Arabia. And number fifth, as on date, is United States of America. So the game is very simple. In the long run, when the Venezuelan oil is available, what does Trump want you to say? Trump wants you to do is cut on your Iraqi oil buy, cut on your Saudi oil buy, and start buying more oil from him. That is exactly what is he going to say, because he knows Russian war is not till perpetuity. Russian sanctions can't be till perpetuity, and this all game about putting sanctions on us was never about Russian oil. It was Mohammed bin Salman who wanted him to put these sanctions because he had promised Trump $1 trillion. So what was his problem? We need to look at 3 years before the war started. India, a net importer of oil. In last 3 years, what has Modi government done? We became a number 3rd player in the secondary market. Who was most impacted in this? I have been very clearly mentioning one thing, because if Saudi loses market share once, there is no way they are going to get that back, and Mohammed bin Salman also understands this. But his problem was not the primary market, his problem was the secondary market, where India became in top 3 players. That is where he was losing market. In order to safeguard that, he asked Trump, why don't you put sanctions on India and deter this process by a good extent? If it was about the Europeans, if it was about the Russian oil, why Europeans never put the sanctions on us? Why Europeans were buying oil from us? Why Europe was buying $15.1 billion of finished products from us? And why? There were no sanctions put on Turkey. Turkey is the 3rd biggest buyer. If you look at, they buy $3 to $10 billion of oil, finished products from Russia. Why then there were no sanctions put on them? Because you got the oil, you processed the oil, you started sending them to the secondary market. And by the way, Ukraine, where you were crying all the foul about, 18% of the Ukrainian diesel, the biggest supplier of Ukrainian diesel which was refined from Russian crude.
Okay, all right. Sumit, we've run out of time, but you've made absolute sense of the question that I asked you. Of course, this is not the end of this discussion. We're going to continue to talk about this until this is formalized, it's signed off, and some of the nitty-gritties of this agreement are made public. We'll take a short break on that note. Be right back.